Got the Chevy SS and we're going to do cam on it. It already has a cam. It has a BTR Red Hot in it, but we're going to a bigger cam. So step one, you need to get access to this area. So as you can see, the intake is pulled out. If you don't know how to pull your intake out, you don't need to be doing a cam. Depending on the intake you have, there's a bolt there that holds it, there's a bolt there that has it. During a pull the valve covers off. The heads aren't coming off. I'm not doing lifters because we just put these heads on, but now he wants a bigger cam. So I'm not going to pull the heads and do new head gaskets and lifters on a car that has not even 1,000 miles on these heads and lifters. So you want to take the coil pack brackets off. They're just 10mm bolts, unless it's this car, and this car had Allens for some reason. But then you want to pull the valve covers off. You want to take the rocker arms out, push rods out. And then when you're doing the rockers though, don't take them out on when there's pressure on it. So like this spring's down, don't take this one out while there's pressure on it, because that pressure is putting a lot of pressure on the threads. So only take them out while they're on their base circle, like push rods all the way down, rockers up, no extra spring pressure is being pushed on those. So that's why you just stick a socket down there, spin the crank, get the rockers on the base circle as you're taking them off. Also, make sure you pull out the spark plugs before you try to like spin the motor over. Makes life easier. But you just get it on the crank bolt. This is hard to do with one hand, sorry. And now the pressure's off and this one's up, you can take this one off. Also, you'll know when it's on the absolute base circle when you're spinning the crank and this sits still for a minute. So it's on the base circle. It's like a lobe's like this. So the left side of my hand's the base circle, this side's the lobe. The base circle has a fairly large side, so it's still gonna be spinning, but it's still gonna be on the base, if that makes any sense. So your crank will turn, but this will go up, stop, and sit there before it goes back down. That's the base. Got the passenger side off, pull the push rods out. Then I'm gonna get to pulling all this stuff out and get the cam out. It's pretty simple. Drain your coolant. You got a little 6mm. It's right in there, little 6mm Allen. While draining the coolant, make sure the cap's open. That way it actually drains faster. Also, pro tip: tape this up so nothing falls down the hole where your hood latch is. You're gonna need to pull these off because the radiator has to come out. On these, if they're kind of stuck, you can grab them with pliers and just give them a wiggle until they move. To get the water pump off, you got the bolt here, here, here. You need to remove this pulley or the bracket, whichever you prefer. And you have the bolt here, here, and here. They're 10mm, and that's it for the water pump. Sometimes you might have to like wiggle the water pump if it's stuck on there, or if it's really stuck, you can take the throttle body off. If you're not pulling the heads and stuff, and you can just hit this with like a mallet and it'll break it loose. And just like that, the water pump's out. You need to pull the AC belt off too. The alternator can stay on, but you just need to loosen it and move it out the way. Take the battery off first so there's no power on the alternator as you're moving it around. The radiator can come out. It's just 10mm here and here. You don't need to break the AC open to do cam on this car. Take 10mm off here and here for the condenser. Fan plug is right here. I already unplugged it. It's this plug. You don't need to unplug this since the fans stay together. Those are the individual fan controller wires from the fan controller. And like that, the AC is out. You lean it back. There's a bolt down there, right here on the bottom, but you can lean it back and get it with a wrench or something. That's how I do it. I just push it back and grab it. You can kind of see the tab down there. It's another 10mm. I pull it with the fans on there. There's no, you don't have to take the fans off, then pull the radiator. You can do it all in one piece. To get the AC belt off, it's a 15mm right here. Just push it down. You need to remove this pulley. It's also 15mm, and they have a bolt here, here, and here. And you can take the alternator off or just slide it out the way. If you just do this bolt, but loosen this one, you can slide it out the way to get the front cover bolts. Unbolt the cam gear while you're down in here. Then you gotta pull this off. Plenty of different ways to do this. With a good strong impact, you can just get it off. My only tool plug of this video. If you don't have one of the new Milwaukee Stubbies 1/2 inch M12 with the high output XC5 battery, get one. This thing will take that off. No problem. Make sure it's on 3 or it's not coming off. See? But this is the new one. This is the one. See, there's no button on the top. You change it by putting it in neutral, double pulling the trigger. This is the older one. This is my 3/8 one. Has the button on top. This one will not do it. If you have an ATI puller, this puller works. You can use a 3-bolt wheel puller too. I'll show you. I have 2 different pullers here, but this one works a little better. If you have a standard puller or standard crank puller, you can just use a 3-bolt or 3-claw puller. Either way, I'll show you how that works too. This one, you just put a wrench on it. It's a 1 1/16 inch, and then the socket, and just hold the wrench, turn the socket, and it's gonna slowly start pulling the bouncer off. And we're off. So for the alternator, I took out the bolt here, the bolt here. This one's loose, and on these, not all cars have this, but it has a bracket. They're all 15 millimeters, and then you can just slide out the way. Because if it sit where it sits OEM, you can't get the bolts. Slide out the way, now you can get the front cover bolts. Pull this off. It's a T40 Torx. That way you can get to that bolt, or else you're just gonna have to wrench it and it's annoying. But if you just pull this off, you can just pop it right out. These cars aren't bad. You just have all the bolts you can see in the 10 millimeters, and then you have a 10 millimeter on the bottom here and here. You can just pull those out with a ratchet wrench. One thing I like to do is with bolts, I always try to break them loose by hand. That way you're not just rounding a bolt off. I see dudes do that all the time with impacts. They just go to zip stuff off. They round them off, so get them broken loose by hand. I've already started, so I just thought I would let you guys know how I do stuff. And then you can just zip them out with the impact. But I've never broken a bolt. I've never stripped a bolt when I start and finish stuff by hand. Now that everything's loose, you come in with the impact and get them all off. This is my M12, my 3/8. This one I keep on 2. It's actually stuck on 2, but it works great because it doesn't over torque stuff. Another thing I do just for my own peace of mind is I label baggies and put every different bolt in. Just, it helps me mentally when I know for sure, like, hey, these are the front cover bolts. These are, you know, alternator bolts, stuff like that. You don't have to, but that's just how I do it. Then you know exactly what everything is. It's easy. If your front cover's stuck, you can take like a screwdriver and just kind of pop it right there. There is a little RTV on the bottom, so it's gonna stick down there and you need to pull it off. If the gasket doesn't get bent and it still has gasket, it can be reused because it's a metal gasket. And like I said, this car already has a cam, so a OEM Ls3, you do not have a 3-bolt cam gear. You have a 1-bolt cam gear. This car already has a small cam in it, but we're putting a bigger cam in it. Take your old crank bolt, not your new one, your old one. That way you can spin the crank over to get the timing lined up. Also, when it's dot to dot, this is going to be at the 3 o'clock. but make sure it's at the 3 o'clock when it's dot to dot, because this can still be 180 out when you're spinning it around, since this is bigger diameter than your crank. Cam retainer bolts are T40, they're Torx. Be careful with these. Always make sure you torque these too. If you over torque these, chances are you're going to strip them out, and that's always fun when you have to pull these out and they strip out because someone over torqued them. This, I absolutely use hand tools to get them loose. Sometimes you have to use heat. For cam, use your water pump bolts. You don't need a cam handle tool. If you're doing it like this or you're not pulling the heads, once all the rockers are out, spin the cam around because it's going to lift your lifters up, and then you slide dowels in right here to hold the lifters up. So these lines are soft, so you can bend this out of your way, and the radiator mount will actually hold it for you, so you can fit everything in there. See, the wood dowel slides right on in there. This is that way you don't drop a lifter down, because then it's real fun if a lifter falls down in the oil pan while you're just trying to do a quick old cam swap. Of course the phone falls. I'm just going with this view then.
I already brought it out there.
Just got to pull these bolts out real quick because they're hitting his trans cooler. So if there's a trans cooler right there at the fan, pull the fan out because it's not going to let the cam come out. So at like 2.5 hours, everything was out. It's just, had to pull transmission cooler fan off for this car since it has a big trans cooler that was in the way. So if that's not there, you have the OEM stuff, about 2 hours to get the cam out if you're not pulling the heads. So on all the Ls3 cars, you can get a Corvette's different story. We're not talking about Corvettes. Just loosen the oil pan bolts. You don't have to pull them out, and then you can push it down, get the oil pickup bolt out, and then pull the oil pump right off. Camaros, you're gonna have a power line that runs under there. I think it's on this side. You just shove it out the way. The SS sedan, you don't have anything in the way. Just loosen all the 10mm bolts, and you can push the oil pan down enough to get your finger in to get the pickup tube out, or the bolt. My bad. So one thing I like to do is get some type of oil resistant paint marker, so you can mark the tooth you need to, as it go all the way down on that, to mark this, so it's a lot easier to see. Even if the oil pump's on, you'll still see the line, so you know if it's dot to dot. Give the new cam a cleaning with some brake clean. Make sure you clean the bolt holes and all that down in there too. Just clean everything. Lube your cam. Right there. Get it going in. Like I said, water pump bolts, so you can have leverage on it. And it's in. With these, make sure you still have a gasket on here if this will focus. Like, you can tell when you need to replace it. These are cheap. Replace them when you need to. Torque those. Cam retainer plates, bolts are 18 foot-pounds of torque. Torque them. Oh, and use blue Loctite. See, like I said, this goes to 3 o'clock. So when you're over here at 9 o'clock, we're 180 out. And then it's at the 3 o'clock. I still need to line the crank up, but just for visual learners. See, I just put one in there to hold it, and then I'll It's not Loctite or anything, it's just there to hold it. Throw the dampener on, throw the other bolts in, throw the oil pump on, Loctite them, torque them, you know, all that good stuff. Everything's torqued, and we got our paint with our lines, so if the lines don't match up with the bolt to the gear, you know it came loose, but it's torqued. So one thing, when you're trying to get it on the pickup tube, if you pull the gears out of the oil pump, it goes on so much easier, and then you can actually align these with feeler gauges. You don't have to do this on every car, but you know it's done right when you do it, plus it makes putting the oil pump on easier. Also, make sure the oil pump O-ring is lubed. You don't want to try to put it on dry and then you rip your O-ring. Put your oil pump bolts in, they're not tight, you know. They're just there to hold it, that way it's not trying to move. I just finger tied them down. That way the oil pump's not moving as you get the pickup tube bolted in. For the pickup bolt, absolutely use some Loctite. You don't want that thing backing out. You'll lose oil pressure if it backs out and your pickup tube comes loose. And then you're gonna need new bearings at the minimum. So to shim it, you're gonna need some 2000 shims. You can use a 2,500s, but I got 2, 2.5, 2. And we're gonna shim it to make sure the oil pump is fit right. So these are, once again, they're literally finger tight, just to hold the oil pump. Slide the gears on, and I will put feeler gauges in them. So we got the shim in all the way around the top. We got the bottom shim in all the way around. And that's how you know it's lined up right. Torque specs are 18 foot-pounds for oil pump to block. If you don't have shims, just tighten them hand tight, spin it around a couple times with the crank bolt. That'll line it pretty good. I've never had an issue doing that, but the shimming, it cannot be wrong if you shim it. Everything's in and tight and torqued down. Time to put the front cover on. You just need RTV where all the three metals meet. So here and here, you don't need a bunch, just a little dab will work. Use an alignment tool for the front cover, or you might get oil leaks. Put all the front cover bolts in, keep the alignment tool in. I bolt the bottom two bolts down, and then I start doing the bolts. And like I said, I always start everything by hand, and then I'll run impacts in it. So start it by hand, you can zip it down and then torque it. So remember, only torque the base circle, them on the base circle. So if the push rod's up and the spring's going down, don't torque it. Once everything's on, I like to just give everything a little bit more lube. Oil doesn't hurt. I have a VR 20W50 in this, so that's what's in here. But it's just to lube stuff up. Balancer's on. This tool is pretty easy. It just screws into the crank. This is 24mm, has a 16mm here, so you just hold it here. I use a ratchet wrench and get it on, and it's just gonna take some ass to get it on. So this is where the old bolt comes in handy. Once you got it seated, take the old bolt, put it in there, torque it to 240. Then once you do that, pull it out, then follow the OEM torque specs for your new bolt. 240 for the old bolt. New bolt is in, hand tight. First step, 37 foot-pounds, then we go to angles. Ready?
Yep.
This is only gonna be 37, the first one. Oh, there you go, 37. Once you do 37 foot-pounds, you're gonna go 140 degrees, which is gonna be like 210 to 240 foot-pounds of torque.
Holy fuck.
Almost there.
Glad I go to the gym. Jesus. You good?
Yep.
That was so much fucking harder without enough room under here. Oh my god.
Water pump, same thing. Start them with hand, then you can zip them in. But it's 11 foot-pounds first pass, 22 second pass for the water pump. And it's 3 10 millimeters on each side. 10 millimeter. If you have air conditioning, put your AC belt on. If it's a Chevy SS, the tensioner, you just push down. It's 15 millimeter. Also, make sure your water pump gaskets are back there or it's gonna leak water. Might as well put new radiator hoses on it while everything's out and there's no coolant in it anyway. If you have a 10% underdrive balancer, here's your part number for a belt you need. So for your belt, it goes balancer, up around tensioner, under water pump, over this, down to alternator, up over this idler, and then down to balancer. So, because if you're like me, when you go put a belt on and you're like, huh, how did this go? Time to do coolant. Don't forget about the heater hose. Forgot to do that, so drained a little coolant out of there, but we're gonna do coolant, change the oil, put the intake on, and fire it up. So it runs now. It took 6.5 hours start to finish. For anyone wondering, there you go. That's how long it took. And it took me longer to figure out his 4 different bolt sizes than anything, since I'm not used to having 3 different bolt sizes on the coil pack. So I had to grab tools I usually don't grab for LS stuff. But it runs. Dyno video will be next.